Hi, my name is Faith, and I lost my sexual innocence first when I was 5, then when I was 10, when I was 12, and again in my early 20s. And I vowed that one day I'll be a soldier, and when I own my own gun, then I'll come and kill all my offenders. And I hated it when there were happy people around me, because I envied their joy, I envied their happiness. For a long time, some of my friends thought that I was complicated. Others felt I was harsh. Some felt that I was unapproachable. And to other people, I appeared to be a happy girl. And so I tried to please the people around me because I didn't want them to know the pain I was going through. I had some deep pain. My life felt dark, but I didn't know why. Neither did I know how to express the pain and the darkness I was feeling inside. So I decided to feed people what they wanted and what they enjoyed. That is, became a pleasant person, and I got involved in so many activities in my life.
But what struck me about her was she was jolly, very outgoing, very authentic in her friendship. Of course, with that, I was so drawn to her, and I thought, okay, let me get to know this girl. And there, our friendship grew. Now, later on, I got to know that behind that jolly face was one who was struggling with many issues. Here was Faith struggling with self-esteem issues. She struggled socially. I guess there were issues to deal with, emotional balance, and just getting to know who she was, some sense of identity of who she was.
It was hard for me to tell who I was because I didn't really know who I was. I lived with a constant feeling and desire to die. I couldn't plan for tomorrow, and I hated it when somebody would ask me where I see myself in 5 years to come, because I struggled every day with feelings of inadequacy. So all this was rooted to an experience I had when I was a little girl. So I was 5 and it was an afternoon, and I was home alone and I was asleep. Then some of the children who lived around our estate came calling on me. And when I woke up, I still don't understand why I joined them, but I did. Just like a little curious girl, I joined them because they invited me to go see the game that they were playing. And so I walked innocently, not knowing that it would be the beginning of my doom. So they took me behind some house. There were some older girls there who instructed me to lie down. I was scared. I couldn't run away. I froze. And one of the girls saw that I was delaying, so she demonstrated to show me what I'm supposed to do. And after that, one of them pulled me down. One of the older boys who was around there undressed me. And then 3 older boys robbed me of my sexual innocence. It was painful. I froze and I began living a life that I wish I never was introduced to. After hurting me, they gave me some money. You see, what is strange is, though it was painful, afterwards there were feelings of pleasure, which I couldn't really explain. But now, what do you call this feeling? And what do you call this urge at 5 years old? What do you tell your parent? You don't even have a name of the pain that you are feeling. You can't even describe it. So it was my big, dark secret. I never thought that God valued me. I never thought He cared so much about me. I felt like a black sheep, and for a long time, I would do things to try and win love or to just feel loved and accepted. When I was abused at 5 years old, I was introduced into a strange world of confusion, pain, anger, guilt, shame, emptiness, helplessness, and a heart full of revenge. So when I was 10, I used to go to school alone. I would be escorted to the bus stop, and then I would board a public means of transport. What I now understand is that there was this particular gentleman who identified that I was an alone child, because every time we would board the bus, he would be there and he would help me carry my bag. And therefore that felt really nice. It felt as though he cared. But now one time, the bus was so full, and I was being pushed back and forth when people were passing through the aisle. And so he pulled me away from the aisle to his side, and he made me stand between his legs. It felt weird. I didn't want to, but I stood there anyway. And then he defiled me. Now, this became so confusing. I tried to look around. I tried looking at the faces of the people who were in the bus to try communicate to them, but they couldn't understand my language. And when I alighted from that bus, I was in so much pain. I hated myself even more. I hated life. I felt like trash. And honestly, I didn't want to live anymore. But I had to go to school. So on my way to school, I tried crossing the road carelessly, hoping that the vehicle would knock me down and, take me away from this life that was ugly and painful. But the driver was careful enough to swerve away. I walked to school in pain. And that day, I couldn't even play with my friends. And again, I didn't tell anyone about it. So from that time, I began having infections. Again, I couldn't tell my mother because I feared she would tell me that I'm probably not careful with my hygiene. The constant thought of ending my life kept bugging my mind. And I had an opportunity one time at home. I remember as a child I was being told that I should not play with medicine, I shouldn't take medicine, which is not mine because I can die. So I used that fact to end my life. But when I swallowed the medication, which was my mother's medication, I wasn't able to swallow it. So I threw up, and I vowed that one day I'll be a soldier. And when I own my own gun, then I'll come and kill all my offenders. So now I became a very bitter child. And I hated it when there were happy people around me, because I envied their joy, I envied their happiness. One time when I was 12, one of my Bible teachers attempted rape on me. I thank God that I was able to run away when he started touching me inappropriately. You see, having your sexual innocence stolen from you once, it sounds bearable. Now another time, and then again, truly I now believed that I was a black sheep. And I also believed that this is something that God had written for me. It's part of the package that he put in my life. Having no view for the future, having no hope for the future, made me not to even pay attention in my studies so much. I only put effort in my studies to avoid conflicts with my parents. But truly, I never saw anything. I never saw anything or anyone I would ever become in my life. So after the 12-year-old experience, life became so confusing. It became more confusing, because now I kept wondering why God allowed even someone whom I looked up to again want to hurt me. And so I began fearing going to church. And I honestly never wanted to have a relationship with God. Then this became worse when my parents separated when I was 13. Again, I lost meaning of life. And nothing about God made sense. And so I hated it being a girl. It felt as though being a woman was a burden. And for a long time, I blamed myself for the several abuse experiences I went through. I knew that I was the one who was attracting the men to me. I never thought that it was their mistake. I never thought that it was wrong. I felt that I deserved it. Why? I don't know. And I remember just before I cleared high school, I really wanted to change my gender and even researched on it. So I was even discussing it with some of my schoolmates. And one of them told me that, what if I die? Don't I fear dying? And I remember telling them that would even be better because it would end my pain. And he told me that, do you think God wants you to change your gender? If he wanted you to be a boy, he would have created you as a boy. But in my head, I was like, does God really care? Does he care about my gender? I don't think he cares about my pain. So you see, a combination of the things I went through, that is, a combination of the sexual abuse, and then my daddy leaving, and then my mom gets a road traffic accident when I was 14. All this shattered my life. And sometimes I feel that my mom's accident was a blessing, because it was now the main thing that was in my life, and it helped numb the other pain that I had. So I tried to serve my mother with all my heart, hoping that someday the pain will go away, or God will see this and somehow reward me. And so these are the lies I believed. But you see, every time I served my mother, I kept feeling inadequate. I felt that I wasn't doing my best, and my self-worth kept on going down and under and under. So at some point I got into romantic relationships to try and figure out myself, to try and look for love and acceptance and validation. But even this didn't really pay much. I felt empty, I felt wasted, and I felt unworthy. Until one time when I had somebody share their story of victory through sexual abuse. Then I decided to give God a chance. And so I thought, if God helped them, then he can help me as well. And so I began a journey to trust God. I got into church and mission activities, which gave me opportunities to view God in a different way, to know God for myself. I learned how to study the Bible for myself and how to listen to God's voice. And one time my burden of guilt was taken away from me when I read the book of John 3:17 that says that, "For Christ did not come to condemn the world, but that the world through him may be saved." So I knew that I didn't have anything to do. I didn't have to do anything to earn salvation. That Jesus came to die for me even before I knew him. That he saw my pain even before I went through. And he chose to endure the same pain when he was stripped naked, when he was abused violently, when he was mocked and beaten up, when he was dragged on his way to Golgotha. And then he chose to die, and then he became alive again, that through him I can find victory. So that is the journey that helped me to stand in the truth that God loves me. And though I have the scars, yes, the scars will remain to tell the story, but I am not bounded to my past. That my past does not define me. And so when I began this journey, it's not like the feelings and the thoughts of pain and hatred went away, no. I learned now how to forgive, which wasn't an easy process, but it was possible. I came to realize that I cannot change what happened to me, but how I live now is my responsibility. I came to learn that though I have pain, though the memories of the offenses will keep coming, God can give me the strength to heal and to forgive.
When we have challenges in life, most of us pray and we ask God to move the mountains. But with faith, it is different. She has embraced climbing the mountain to get to the other side of life. She is focused, and through her focus, she has learned the secret of placing herself in positions where God can bless her.
One of the things that helped me accept and embrace God's love was the gift of friends. For a long time, I didn't know how to relate to my friends because I didn't know how they would treat me after they have known the real me. Because now you see I was living a double life. But when I got vulnerable with some of my friends, they supported me. Our friendship grew deeper. And days that I feel helpless, I'm able to reach out to them, and you're able to pray together with them. And that showed me that God truly loves and values me.
When Tina was celebrating her 27th birthday, I remember she took the time to invite about 30 friends, and I think I found that really significant. And during the birthday celebration, she had something to say for every person she had invited there. So for someone who's gone through a lot, I think that's very encouraging to all of us, that regardless of what you have gone through, you can build upon that and use it to create a message and to make the world a brighter place.
Some of the things that helped me in my healing journey were accepting that it wasn't my fault. I also came to realize that keeping quiet with the pain makes it worse, because we cannot heal what we don't reveal. And so when I first opened up to talk about what I was going through, I was able to find help. And it's through that I came to realize that God actually loves me. I stopped holding on the grudges and chose to work on the pain that I was going through. So yes, I acknowledged that an offense was done to me, but I didn't focus so much on the offender. Because the more I focused on the offender, I realized that it was hurting me again and again. And so I chose to pray, to ask God to help me let go of the offenders and find healing through Him. And for me, that which the devil planned for evil to destroy my life, God has turned it for good, in that I can speak to somebody else who's hurting, and I know that the same God who helped me will also help them. I know it's very, very hard, and it's even more hurtful to talk about the experience, because you don't know whether somebody is going to believe you. And I know how it hurts when someone rejects you.
Now, I must tell you, Faith is a warrior. For her to, one, open up and express herself and say what she's going through, I think that was very bold, very courageous. And as I got to learn more of her, I saw how much she embraced challenges. Whatever came her way, she took it in. She took it in. Her experiences in the past have just made her to be a better teacher and bold enough to share her story to make a difference in somebody else's life.
One of the major things I struggled with was post-traumatic stress disorder. It was actually complex because I would have flashbacks of what I went through. And many times this would keep me from even doing my daily duties. And for a long time, I didn't know how to escape that route, because I would have constant fear of being abused. And many times it felt as though I was abused a few minutes before, or it was happening at that time. But when I visited this therapist, then she helped me to understand what I was going through, and she helped me know how to break the cycle. Now, post-traumatic stress disorder is bad in this way. Okay, I can't really say bad, but it can make you feel like a prisoner, because you will believe the fears that you have, and even your body will respond as though you're being attacked at that time. Therefore, you'll find that your heart will start beating really fast. You'll even not be able to move. You will freeze. And a lot of times, you won't even have control or the ability to even ask for help. So for a long time, I didn't understand what I was going through until I described what I was going through. And so to end this, or rather to cope up with this, I needed to identify my triggers. So triggers are things or places or smells or objects that remind you of the sexual abuse. So I needed to be careful enough to identify what my triggers were. Sometimes it's somebody's name. Another time it's when probably a man came to sit next to me. Another time it's just a simple conversation that would bring back all those memories. And so a few things that I was able to do to help me out with that was, one, a change in diet. So I had somebody help me out with that, because when your brain is in constant stress for a long time, then you end up having chemical imbalance. And this can really disadvantage you in viewing life and also in making decisions in life, or even making right choices in life. And so when I had the change of diet, I also had to be serious about exercise. I also had to be intentional about drinking water, sleeping, and just avoiding places and things and objects that I knew were triggering me until I was strong enough to go back to those places.
I thought I was the one influencing Faith in so many ways, but truth is, I think I have learned from her to be more embracive of struggles and change. I see how she has picked up most of her self and used that as a stepping stone to somebody who's better. That challenges me every time. And every time she calls me, she's bubbling over. Today, Faith is one of those very strong caregivers. Why? I think because of her struggles in the past, which has made her to be a better person. And I have become a better person because of my interaction with her.
Many times we think that abusers are strangers or some dirty, ragged people who come to attack our children. But the sad truth is, most abusers are people who spend most time with our children. And these are people who identify children who yearn for love. They can easily identify children who look for attachment. And when they're able to win their trust, then they take advantage of them. One thing that I would like you to understand is the reason why we report abusive cases is most abusers are just revengeful survivors of sexual abuse. When someone has not dealt with their sexual past, especially if it was an abuse, then they live with a hard heart that wants to hurt other people. As the statement goes, hurting people hurt people. And then I know sometimes it can be difficult for families to report because you feel that this is your family member and that you're going to ruin the name of your family. Now, in those moments, you really need to think about the health of your child, the future of your child, than the relationship that you have. When a child is silenced after they have spoken up, many times they won't even come back to report when something else happens to them. So let's learn to believe the children, because with sexual abuse, the only evidence that exists is the story of the survivor.
Higher than the highest human thought can be is God's ideal for his children. Faith, God has a plan, a good plan, a perfect plan for your life. I believe God is implementing it in your life because you have allowed him. Allow him still. And may God keep you.
I don't know what you are experiencing right now, but if yours was sexual abuse like mine, though your life may seem hard and difficult, though you may feel stuck because you cannot predict the future, or because you can't plan for your future, there's a God in heaven who says that he has good thoughts towards you. Though you may feel as though nobody cares, God cares about you. And if he healed me, then he can heal you. Again, remember that God can use your deepest pain to launch your great calling. You can choose to suffer proudly and do not suffer miserably.